Namaste and greetings to Dr. Vishwanath Guhaji. Such a pleasure to have you with us, and thank you for taking the trouble to come all the way from Mysuru. He is a Ph.D. in Sanskrit literature and Jyotisha, which by itself is very unique, from Benaras Hindu University. And he's also now a lecturer at Maharaja College in Mysuru. Sanskrit College in Mysore, as well as in IIT-Hyderabad. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
And your journey is pretty unique. Do you have like a background, family background in shastra and Sanskrit literature?
First of all, thank you very much for the invite, and it's really great to be associated with this institution after a very long time. So I've been always appreciating from the outside, so finally I've got a chance to be a part of it as well. So thank you so much for that opportunity. When it comes to the question, there is no such background or anything. If we take only a couple of generations into consideration, which I personally do not want to, because I always want to believe the fact that we are all descendants of our great rishis. So in that sense, we have a very rich family tradition. All of us, not just me, all of us are blessed with such great family tradition. If I have to go and say that there have been great Sanskrit scholars in the family, I think there was an era back then where studying Saṃskṛta or getting into shastras was a very common thing. It wasn't held in high regard as it is held right now. It was a very common thing for people to do, and parents would be willingly sending their children to study Saṃskṛta, maybe some Amarakosha, Bhagavadgītā. These things were very common. So in that sense, there were many people in the family. But apart from that, I always was interested to learn Saṃskṛta. Maybe that is because of the fact that my mother was a Sanskrit teacher. My mother is a Sanskrit teacher, and that influenced me. And then I started learning Saṃskṛta, like generally how any child will learn some shabdas, dhatus, and all these kind of things. And slowly fascinated by the depth of Amarakosha and also a little bit of Vyakarana. And then slowly it started, and I was just deeply interested in learning the language. What started as learning the language later on converted, or it transcended into getting to know more about our shastras. And then Jyotisha was my first love, if I can say so. So that was the first field of expertise, or the first shastra that I chose, and it was a great experience. And from there, it was a slow turn towards Sāḥitya, towards Alaṅkāraśāstra. And later on now, I try to find a kind of both, the mixture of both shastras, or the togetherness of these two shastras in everywhere, in every point. So that's how the journey has been so far.
I had interviewed Swamini Vimalananda of Chinmaya Mission, and she was making the difference between born Hindu and living and practicing Hindu. So you just spoke about how you would sleep for only 3 hours during your PhD.
Yeah.
So in the process of becoming and living as a Hindu, what does it entail from being born as a Hindu and having some samskara to actually, living it in the fullest sense?
Correct.
What did it entail for you?
I think that's a journey of self-realization. I mean, not in that sense of self-realization where we use for Atma-Sakshatkara, but truly we get to know what we are missing, and what we should be heading towards, or what we should be subscribing to, rather than taking up any information that comes our side. So that was an eye-opener. So when we present ourselves in that scenario, in those circumstances, when we find ourselves in the midst of shastras, this is my experience, that when we present ourselves into the shastras do offer great insight, not just into itself, but also our outlook for world, outlook for life changes. whether it is our daily routine or the way we interact with people. And because I did work on the conversations of Rāmāyaṇa as part of my PhD, so much of intricate details are taken into consideration in a small conversation. So, for example, when they said that Smitapurva Abhibhashi, this was one of the adjectives used for Rama by Valmiki. I mean, in principle, we understand that. In textual meaning, we understand that he always used to have a smile. But how difficult it is for us to practice that. That challenge is also known by us, is also felt by us when we start practicing Hinduism or when we start practicing Sanatana Dharma. We understand that it is a huge challenge. We may be able to convincingly do it for a week, for 10 days, for 15 days. But consistently, there are plenty of challenges. But the best thing is, as Krishna puts it in Gita, Swalpamapyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. I mean, that's the assurance that we need to keep at the back of our mind. And the study of shastras actually gives us assurance to life. I usually keep saying this, that whether we have insurance in our life or not, it doesn't matter. Assurance we need, and this is the sort of assurance that when we start practicing Hinduism, when we start owning our dharma, it really gives that assurance that dharmo rakshati rakshitaha. That is 100% true. So yeah.
It's strange that you should quote his the line about his smile, because in Yoga Vashishta we have the other side of Sri Rama, where I'm sure he's not smiling, but strangely enough, of all platforms in Quora, you have responded to a question about somebody who's talking about Varanasi being a city of not so clean and challenges, and you have said actually that life is life is not fun, and fun is not life. So clearly it's a challenge.
Yeah, it is.
But how do we don't have to smile all the time, but how do our texts like Yoga Vashishta help us, or even the Gita, how do they help us to deal with modern day life?
I think the very fact that I and you are discussing that is Bhagavadgītā relevant, that itself, or can we find anything from Bhagavadgītā or the likes of these texts for some remedies in our day-to-day life, that itself is a clear-cut indication how relevant they are. And the knowledge that is present there, or I wouldn't say just the knowledge, but the outlook they give about life. Let us just take a look at what Krishna and Arjuna's conversation was. He was speaking to his friend. And before that, he took that liberty that he is my friend, he is my mate. So he told him to take him to the center of the battlefield, and he flipped, and then he started delivering a lecture, and then he understood that he's not able to convince himself, because he realized that this is not me, but I'm unable to get out of this grief. And finally, when the conversation began, their conversation began from the point of Atma's indestructibility. And when we take that conversation as an example, or we set that as a model, then we realize that everything has an answer that revolves around Atmajnana or Atma Sakshatkara, because that is the true essence of life. And somehow we have deviated from that part of life, and we try to put something else in that spot, and that has created many troubles for us. So the study of these texts, what it does is it doesn't give a straight away quick fix that people usually find. You do this challenge for these many days, or you do this practice for these many days, you will find all the benefits. It gives a perspective of life. It tells you that where is the focal point, and if your focal point has changed, then it reminds you that you should get back onto that focal point. So there is nothing better that anything does apart from these shastras, other than these shastras, when they give us the idea of life. They just tell us how to lead life, or even deeper, what is life. So that is the greatest help any Shastra can do. So as long as life exists in this world, the relevance of Shastra automatically exists, because they talk about life, nothing else. They just tell us what is this Jivanam, what is this life, and the purpose of life, the ultimate purpose of life. So these texts are always there. They're constantly there. They are, we can call them as nagging old ladies. They're always there.
Yeah.
Like, just like when we have a grandmother in our home, she keeps on picking on everything, every small thing that we do, which is a good thing, by the way. It's not to be discounted. It is not to be something made fun of. But because such people existed in our society, we never took a wrong step. You see, when families broke down, when we became nuclear, see how many problems we have run into. Because there is nobody to help us, to guide us. The Shastras are like that. And that's why he says, yes, Shastra vidhi mutsrajya vartate kamakarataha. It's not like there was no concept of kamakara. Kamakara is free will. So there is a concept of kamakara, but you are free to subscribe to that. However, if you go beyond the limitations of Shastra, then nasa siddhim avapnoti, na sukham, na parangatim. So why would anybody want to give up such great benefits just for small fun? Therefore, that's why, life is not just about having fun. It's about understanding what we truly are. And these Shastras serve as a reminder in different forms, in different varieties, whether it is Yoga Vasishtha or Bhagavadgītā, Upanishads, or even the Kavyas, the art forms, whatever the way is, they have used every single stone in order to deliver us this message. And it's upon us on how we can continue that.
Yeah. See, you're an academic with a very wide range of interest and expertise. So my guru, in one of his talks on Bhagavad-gītā, was talking about the issue of philosophical solipsism. So he says, in the Bhagavad-gītā, we have the first, since we met during the Yoga Sutra session, I thought I'll bring this up.
Yes.
He says the seeds of yoga and pranayama were first are to be found in the Bhagavad-gītā. But there is no mention of this in the Yoga Sutras or in the Hatha Yoga Pradipika. So do our texts talk to each other? They obviously know that this has already come before, but there's no mention of it. So when we are studying texts like you do, we are doing several texts, and we have, like in the Bhagavad-gītā itself, he was giving the, there are different commentaries with different interpretations. Yeah. So he took Abhinava Gupta ji, he took Madhvacharya and Shankara. So all three in many aspects concur, but also differ in a very fundamental way in different aspects. So as a student and as a scholar, how do we arrive at the essence of these teachings when there is this, how do we know what's the connectivity of all this
Shastras.
knowledge?
Yeah. And it's a wonderful question. In fact, one of the most important questions that needs to be answered, because when we look at our Shastras from an outsider's perspective, I'm not, when I say an outsider, I'm not a person who doesn't belong to this country like that, but a person who has not been introduced to the Shastra, but born and brought up in this country, in this great country, but not introduced to Shastras. When they take a look at the Shastras, it will definitely appear as if it is haphazard. There is no construction there is no organization, but that's not true. The thing is, the Shastras have survived or have been passed on to us through a parampara. And some knowledge are always kept in the parampara. It is never documented. It never gets documented. We have this kind of notion in every family as well. So if a mother has to pass on her most successful recipe to her daughter, then she would ensure that she doesn't write, the daughter doesn't note it down, because she wants her daughter to imbibe that. And that's how anybody would actually pass on the knowledge, if they are very fond of, if they are true to their knowledge, that's how they pass it on. And similarly, the Shastras have followed this parampara. It has been passed on, this parampara. And somewhere along the lines, what has happened is, we have forgotten to see the missing link, because we are not able to connect what has happened. But it doesn't mean that there is no organization at all. There is, of course. All the shastras are organized, and it's organized in a trinity. It's in a triangular shape, where the first two work as a base. The first level is Tantra. Tantra is where all the technical details are provided, what to do and how to do it. So basically, it is our DIY. So if I have to do it by myself, I should know what mistakes I should avoid and why and how I should proceed ahead. So these instructions, very practical instructions which are provided, they form the Tantra part of that knowledge system, Tantra part of that Shastra. And beyond that Tantra comes the regulatory body. So the first one is technical, the second one is regulatory, because if somebody tells us that you have to do this, this is how we do it, obviously we ask this question, that why we do this. That's where our rationale begins to work. And to present every argument in a rational way, that is what Shastra is. So that is the regulatory body. Every Shastra has got, every knowledge system of our country has got a Shastra, has got a Tantra, but it doesn't stop there. What we are missing is Tantra leads to Shastra, and Shastra essentially must lead us to Darshana. Darshana is experiential. So when we find this link, then all the texts start to make sense. Now, for example, when we read Hatha Yoga Pradipika, it gives so intricate details about, for example, a pranayama. So if it is talking about a certain pranayama in this detail, it doesn't mean that it doesn't know or it does not want to propagate what is the ultimate purpose of life. It wants to, but its focus, its primary focus in this text or at this time is only to highlight the technical details, which it does marvelously. And from there we start asking this question, that what is the rationale behind it? Why so much of emphasis is put on pranayama? What is the role of pranayama? Then we move to Shastra. And those Shastra, they come in different forms and shapes and sizes. So Sutra format is one, where in these Yoga Sutras they mention what is pranayama, what varieties of pranayama, all these things. So that gives us an idea, a glimpse of, oh, this is the reason why in the bigger picture. And all of them begin to make sense only when we elevate ourselves to that darshana, to that experience. So as long as there is no experience, these two seem disconnected. So if there are 2 points here, and if we do not have a point at the top, then we cannot probably make out that how they are interconnected. So this is why on the outlook it may appear that they are distorted, but the reason for that is lack of experience. There is no darshana there. So the moment we have that darshana, everything begins to make sense. I'm always reminded of a quote from Steve Jobs, I guess that was from, you cannot connect the dots looking forward. So it's not about looking backward, it is looking inward. So the moment we start looking inwards and we start experiencing things, then when we become that, see, the whole idea of Bharatiya Jnana Parampara has never been to be the knower of knowledge. Our idea of knowledge has always been becoming the knowledge. So Aham Brahmasmi is us. Nowhere else, no other philosophy can ever dare or dream to come to this level, because it is not hyperbole. It is not something that you simply throw. It is experience. It is out of experience of rishis. It is their darshana that has followed. So when we have darshana, all the shastras make sense. Without darshana, even though we have an organized structure, it wouldn't make sense. So the only thing that makes sense in life is darshana.
One of the questions that I had was like, when we have tenets like which you have quoted, is there a problem in modern day society where the emphasis is so much on the individual? So is there a possibility that we'll equate this with the I? Instead of eliminating the I, are we actually feeding more into this I, me concept?
I think the problem is that Uddhared Atmanatmanam is true. So the focus should be on ourselves, and it means that unnecessarily we shouldn't be associating with other things. But the problem, the trick is that the trick that mind has played on us is that it has given us various points where I can go and stick the notion of I, rather than truly realizing what I am. I have realized that I am so, when I am here, I am something. When I am there, I am something. So somebody told about, somebody was talking about diversified portfolio, and we took it very seriously. And we have taken it so deep that we have diversified ourselves in so many ways that if we want to have a comprehensive understanding of ourselves, we have nowhere to go. So that is the problem. So it's not like we should shun all the notions about I. So because if we do that, then we will not be able to go deeper and deeper. So we need that, but at the same time, humility is what is missing from the society. That's why I mentioned that our society was like char log kya kahenge. This was how our society was built, and that was a great phenomenon why our society survived, why our culture survived, because it was not a singular parent or a single parent's responsibility to raise a child. It takes a village to raise a child is a very popular song, I guess. And it is true as well, because every single member of the village, irrespective of their social status, they would contribute in raising that child. So it's not like now what has happened with the mindset is, if I am at my hometown and if I am in my home, then I'm very disciplined. But when I go away from my home, if I am in some other country, if I am in some other place, I can do whatever I want. That is not the idea. So because the core concept of dharma, the core concept of understanding what is the purpose of life, because that has gone away from the individuals, and also it has reflected in the society because nobody else is concerned. Unka जीवन कैसा चाहे वो जिए. So this has become like that. So we have to confront this issue from two ends. First is making people understand the true purpose of life individually, how they should align their life. And secondly, increasing our social responsibility. Let us not only restrict our social responsibility to CSRs. It's not just about corporate social responsibility. We owe something to the society because we are because of the society. So if we seek validation, appreciation from society when we post an image on Instagram, we should be able to receive criticism when we are wrong from the society as well. We cannot have best of the both worlds. We should be ready for that as well. So when we are open to society will definitely lead us in the right path. I mean, it's collective. It's not like I'm not suggesting that there should be a body, a regulatory body which will take care of all these things, dharma parishad, dharma samsata. I'm not suggesting any of that. Every individual, if they become aware of their purpose, so collectively they will know how to move ahead. Because we lack that orientation towards the ultimate purpose, it is causing so many trouble. So,
there's a Western scholar who actually defines this into two concepts. He says in the journey of spirituality, one is becoming aware, and the second point he says is growing up. What you talk about social contribution, he puts under growing up. So he says now the emphasis is so much on consciousness and getting moksha or getting jivan mukti. We are all so much caught up in this special feeling that of being a special person with special insight, special journey, that the second part of growing up. And how do we use this either specialness or whatever we have experienced for in applying it to creating the same experience for others?
Yeah, I think the answer lies in Bhagavadgītā, where Krishna told Arjuna that karmanaiva hi samsiddhim asthita janakadayaha, and he gave the example of a Rajarshi like Janaka. He was a great rishi who would do the vichara, atma vichara, with the likes of Yajnavalkya. And at the same time, he used to take care of his subjects as well. So that balance was there. And we need to have the same balance here as well. too much of emphasis on any one will cause the disbalance. There should be equal amount of interest and equal amount of contribution, equal amount of involvement in both of that. So, and it's not like yoginah karma kurvanti. That's another line from Gita where he says that sangam tyaktva dhananjaya. Say, when we start thinking of growing up or being involved in society, it comes with a cost. The price that we have to pay for that is because we are still half-baked goods. I'm sorry if I can use such words, but because we still are half-baked and we enter into the social arena and we think that we can manage, it comes with an unknown threat, because that threat always surrounds us. Kama esha, krodha esha. It's always like either kama or krodha. It's like the yesteryear's Dennis Lilly and Jeff Thompson. If Lilly doesn't get you, Thomo will. If Thomo doesn't get you, Lilly will. So it is like either kama or krodha. It's always going to get us. And what it does is, it will land us in a mess. We want to get involved in society. Either we get too much involved, too much invested in it. Every investment has got only one purpose. The moment involvement turns into investment, we start looking for returns. So that's what happens in our social gatherings or our social involvement as well. It doesn't remain social involvement. It becomes a social investment. I am giving my precious 1 hour for this particular event. What am I getting in return? See, that's generally how people have become nowadays. So that's the fundamental problem we have, because we are half-baked in the other half. We haven't realized ourselves, and we are not completely aware of the kind of threat and also the intensity of threat that kama and krodha are posing to us. So when we do not counter them, kama and krodha, when we don't counter them and we want to proceed with our social responsibility, it comes at a price. So therefore, it should be balanced. And it seems like when we talk about all these things in theory, it seems very difficult. I mean, there are practical solutions. The practical solution is just follow your swadharma, that's all. Gato margonugamyate. There's an interesting incident in the conversation that happens between Kausalya and Rama. She was a great lady, well-learned lady, Kausalya. And she counters Rama saying that, am I not your parent? Is it not necessary for you to adhere to my words as well? So I'm giving you a command, you stay back. So in the midst of this conversation, Rama counters, Rama answers. Valmiki writes, he ran out of words of praising Rama. So he says that Rama answered this question like how only he could answer. Nobody else could come to that level. And Rama's response to this was like, it's not like I'm setting a new precedent here. It's not like I'm starting off a new trend, like how these people would like to call these days. Rama did not set any new trend when it comes to following the words of the father. Who has not followed the words of your father? It's like, these small things, I'm just following it. I'm not making it a big fuss. So similarly, we need to be like that. So many people have walked this path. Mahajano yena gataha sapanthaha. So when you are in doubt, follow the Mahatmas. If they have walked that path, then you should follow. And I think it was in Game of Thrones, I guess, in the first season itself. I'm sorry, I have to bring in all these kind of things.
It'll make it interesting for younger audience.
There was, in one of the episodes, there is a conversation that happens that Jon Snow was eyeing for Lord Commandership, and he didn't get that. Or not even Lord Commandership, I think he was eyeing for being a ranger who can go into the wild and all those things. He didn't get that. He was very upset. And then because he was asked to be a servant for the Lord Commander. And the Lord Commander once tells him that if you want to be a leader one day, learn how to follow today. So we speak a great deal about being a Vishwaguru and all. But if we do not follow what made us Vishwaguru in the first place, swam charitram shikshayaran prithivyam sarva manavaha, from this desha. So if we do not follow the dharma that this desha has provided to us, if we do not remain loyal to swadharma, then how are we expecting to become a superpower? Right? It's just in words, that's all. It's all fancy. So if it has to materialize, then we have to start following swadharma. And that comes with with a manual, with a set manual. That's how parampara, that's the role of parampara. We have this grand parampara that has flown till us. We just have to follow that. If we keep on following that, I'm sure we will benefit.
Yeah.
So,
See, as far back the Kalki Purana predicted and said, the worst tragedy that will befall this Bharat Varsha is the commercialization of dharma.
yes.
So, in that context, if it is already predetermined, and Jyotisha does some of that, so where is free will, and what is your role or my role, and this conversation's significance when if the Puranas itself know that this is going to happen?
See, when it comes to few things that are inevitable, like we know death is inevitable. It doesn't mean that we stop living. It doesn't mean we stop breathing. And we also know that night is inevitable. I'm going to get tired and I'm going to go to sleep. Sleep is inevitable for my body. We know that, and yet we are active. No? We get into activities, we get involved in activities, and at that time we don't usually question that what will happen in this flow. So similarly, even though that is the grand scheme of things, but what is our contribution is, it's not always those who hold the flag at the summit who are going to be remembered. If you were asked to be a human chain or a human bridge to cross over, and if you were a part of that human bridge, you will be remembered. So this is what we are doing. So if we fail to else on to the remains as well, then what will happen is one day everything will be gone, and if we want to revive, we would have nothing else left with us. So that shouldn't happen. Right now, we do not have a magician amongst us. Right now, we don't have somebody who can breathe life back into all the vidya, all the parampara, everything. What is our responsibility? What is that little thing that we can do, that alilu seve that we can do, is very simple. Hold on to the skeleton as long as possible and pass it on. I don't mean any offense when I call this as a skeleton, because that is what it is. If we hold on to it, there will come a time when life will be breathed into it. And that's our small role. And we contributed by holding on to this parampara. Again, some people might think that this is not much of a rewarding kind of work. I always respond by saying that the most unrewarding position in football is the defensive midfield. Nobody cares. They don't get highlighted. For every Cristiano Ronaldo success at Real Madrid, there was a Casemiro. Now, how many people know about Casemiro? Nobody knows about the defensive midfielder. So every great striker will always have a defender. So it is at times unrewarding, but you require that unrewarding work to be put. And holding on to our parampara, following Swadharma, is when we know something is inevitable as well, but still that discipline, that holding the line, all these things are just like how even when they are losing a game, they don't run away, they follow their rule. And similarly, we have to follow Swadharma. Even though we know it is inevitable, it's okay. But we did our best, because that is our part. Since we are existing, it is our role, it is our moral obligation to preserve whatever we have received and pass it on as it is without adultering it.
Yeah. See, one of the things you mentioned is about our level of knowledge, and you use the word half-baked. So the Purusha Suktam says that we know only quarter of 3/4 we don't know. So in that context, a lot of it, unlike the rishis, even if we go through all the shastras, which is impossible, we will still know only touch the tip of the iceberg. So what is a student of Shastra do when that is all that's available? How do we get the other 3/4?
So there's a beautiful line that every Shastra student would have come across. Acharyat padam adatte. So they take only 1/4 from Acharya, padam shishya swamedhaya, and other quarter from his own genius, and padam sabrahmacharibhya along with his classmates. And then sheshah kalena pachyate. It takes a while for the vidya to come to a paka. So that vidya paka takes a while. So similarly, when we start, this is not something to be disappointed about, that we get to know only this much. All this effort is only for this much. But we think that we are entitled. There is a sense of entitlement that we have, which actually ruins our idea. We feel that just because I am now getting into Shastra, and I have seen this kind of attitude in many people. It is good that people are getting interested in Shastra. People want to learn the Shastra, but come with no idea that you are entitled to understand the Shastra. It takes manushyanam sahasreshu kaschid yatati siddhaye, and amongst those who try, yatatam api siddhanam, those who succeed, there are very few. And amongst those who are very few who succeed, kaschin mam vetti tattvataha. So you see the ratio, how it falls down. So it is difficult, but we should keep at it. And there is no name parthasti kartavyam. And it's not like there is nobody who is dveshya or priya for Bhagavan. So that is also there. So when we have such kind of ideas presented to us, so it becomes easier for us that everybody has got a fair attempt at it. They've got a fair chance at it. So it's about who can hold on to their lane discipline, to their swadharma, to the longest. So the longer we hold on to our swadharma, it will be easier for us to attain the best. The best is the Atma Sakshatkara. That will happen. For that, as long as we don't get the whole picture of Shastra, we will be very happy in knowing one grantha, one book, and we think that we are the masters of this work. We have to always, dirgham pashyata maharasvam. Always see the bigger picture, always see the entire arc of Vidya, how this Vidya has emerged, how this Vidya has evolved, how it is leading us to Atmajnana. If we miss this point, and if we hold on to one small technical detail, and if we claim that we are great scholars because we are aware of this technical detail, that would be like, understanding a limb, one bone in the body, and claiming that I am a great doctor. That is not true, right? So, so similarly, when it comes to Shastra, one should be cautious. They should tread the path carefully, and they shouldn't get that into their head. Just because we understood a few concepts, that doesn't make us great scholars. But it takes years together, maybe many janmas together. But even then, even if we understand any one portion of the Shastra, but the idea is not to widen the horizon. That's the wrong idea that has been presented. We think that if we know many things, we are great scholars. No. If you know one thing deeply, that's when you become a great scholar. So, it's more about, depth rather than width. So
in science, I was reading there, it's called the function of magnitude. So how, in terms of time and space, how close you're able to go to something.
Exactly.
How closely in the microscope you're only observing 1/1,000,000th of an organism.
Correct.
But you're seeing it with such clarity.
Yeah.
Which I think you
Exactly.
might be referring
Absolutely.
to, because that becomes a symbol for everything else, So one of the things that I saw you speaking about is on dhyana, and that is something that is bandied about by a lot of people, and it's called meditation and other several names. So mindfulness and stuff. There was a debate about this emptying of the mind and whether it's possible, but we have we are so connected to rituals, to traditions, to all parts of the structure which actually hold up our mind. So what are your thoughts on dhyana?
No, it's dhyana comes almost at the end of the Ashtanga Yoga. It is like the culmination of all the efforts that we have put starting from yamas. After yama, niyama, when we structure our life in a proper way, and we have attained that stability of body, we have understood the breathing pattern, and then we work on the mind. That is pratyahara. First, we have to withdraw whatever investments we have done elsewhere. So, de-diversifying of portfolio should happen, or centralization of portfolio, if we can say so. So that after pratyahara comes dharana, dhyana, samadhi. So these three are in line. Dharana, dhyana, samadhi are in one line. So until and unless we have dharana, so pratyahara is also, previously it would have happened, and after pratyahara, dharana should be there. There should be one object, there should be one subject, there should be a target, an aim, something should be there. And when all the thoughts are on that and nothing else, it's like, unlike how we do Devata Darshana. We go to Devalaya, we do the Deva Darshana, the Darshana of the Devata, and we come back. Meanwhile, while we are having the Deva Darshana, Devatas Darshana, there, our mind would be somewhere else as well, simultaneously. If we have bought a new pair of shoes, we will be worried that what if someone takes away my shoes? And that is also there. And when we go to the temple, it's not like always we look at the thing that is supposed to be looked at. So far we go, we go to Gaya, we have the darshana, and this is the example that my guru used to give. So far away from our place, we go there with all the hardships and all, and we went there, we touched it, and we came back. And then if somebody asks, it was Vishnu's pada, no? Was it right or left one? We wouldn't know, because we haven't paid attention. And what direction was it? We don't pay attention to these things because we are not conscious about it, and all our thoughts are not in one place. There is no one subject for us because we have diversified it. So until pratyahara and dharana has happened properly, dhyana would mean nothing. To be honest, dhyana would mean nothing. So for dhyana to be meaningful, pratyahara, the de-diversification, and dharana, establishing only one, should have happened. And then the continuous flow of thoughts on that. It's just like my guru used to give us this example that dhyana, if you ever want to not forget what dhyana is, you just have to remember the flow of castor oil, the pure castor oil. And back in those days, we used to get that, not the adulterated version. The castor oil, when we pour it from a certain distance, the flow of castor oil doesn't break. When we pour water from a certain distance, the flow of water breaks. So this flow of water is not dhyana. Flow of castor oil is dhyana. Ekatanata, that's what Yoga Sutras also mention. So that ekatanata should be there, that one focused thought. It is falling only on one, and that flow is undisturbed. It is not going elsewhere. It is not taking any deviations. So that is dhyana, and that will happen. And that is the reason why dhyana cannot be translated. This word, how will we ever express all these ideas in one word in English? I am not sure we can, if we can. So for the sake of understanding, for the sake of vyavahara, we keep saying dhyana, meditation, but it is not. It isn't that easy to translate a word of that magnitude. Now, dhyana is such, because it's only one step away from samadhi. Yeah. It's just one step away, you are there. I mean, if someone says that, you should hear how people say that, oh, I was doing my dhyana. You are not there if you say that you are doing dhyana. Yeah. If I say that I am doing dhyana, it means that I am not doing dhyana. In fact, the Upanishads, especially Kena Upanishad, it's very clear when it says that he who says that he knows Brahma knows nothing. So that's the idea. And here as well, if we are still aware of the fact that I am doing dhyana, so that I is there, the process of dhyana is there, the subject, it means that we still have multiple thoughts running in our mind, or multiple heads, streams are there. So all those streams should converge, should become one. And when we become that is the path of becoming one. So that is when dhyana happens. It's a long process, but again, no word can be sufficient to express what dhyana is. Yeah.
As you're expert and student and scholar of Indian Saṃskṛtam literature, one question that comes to my mind is, they say our sources of knowledge are Smriti and Shruti, and all the Upanishads are almost very poetic in their nature. But is that something that is actually appreciated by a student of our shastras?
No, not really.
And what role does literature play in this journey? Where is Saundarya? Where is Alaṅkāram? What is that quality? Like in music, one line of music is enough to give us this experience of dhyana. Nadam itself is everything.
Absolutely.
So is that something that we emphasize in our
We do.
studies?
I mean, that's what Alaṅkāra is all about. That's what Sāḥitya is all about. Because the word, why we use the word Sāḥitya, which is more popular on the northern parts of our country, the reason why it is called as Sāḥitya is because there is a hita involved in that. And again, it's a non-translatable word. We cannot find a suitable word for the suitable word that can express comprehensively what hita means. But when somebody asks you this question, or maybe the example that we take, it's a scorching summer and we have been walking for quite a long time, and somebody offers you a glass of water. The moment you drink that water, he's a stranger, but he offered you water. You feel that hita, that is something, but that cannot be expressed. It is not happiness. It is nothing. So similarly, as we go on, Alaṅkāra, these small things are important because it brings closer and closer to the anubhava of rasa. That rasa, the experience of rasa itself is called as Brahmasvada Sahodara by Vishwanatha. In Sahitya Darpana, he calls it as Brahmasvada Sahodara. It is on par with Brahmananda, that experience of rasa. And for that to happen, there should be an element of Alaṅkāra, there should be an element of literature. And why literature? Now, it's not because I have studied it, I'm not trying to defend it. But see, the medicine, if they give us some powder, and it's very bitter though, and if they ask us to consume it, nobody appreciates it. Nobody wants to eat bitter by choice. It's only because they have no other choice, that's why they have to take it. But what if the same medicine, we are not changing the ingredients, by the way, the same medicine, but we add a spoon of honey to it. So who wouldn't want to consume the medicine with honey? When the option is given to you, do you want to consume the medicine with honey or without honey? So anybody would want to take up with honey. That is what literature does, because that is the reason why it is called as Kanta Samhita. See, when the parents tell us to do something, it is like, okay, fine, let me see. When the friends tell us to do it, who are they to tell me? These kind of things. So that is what, when the Vedas tell us to do something, we always question the authenticity of Vedas. When did Vedas emerge? What is the time period, author? All these are, I'm sorry to say this, but all these are some unnecessary, stupid questions to pose to Vedas, because we do not just want to accept the fact the Vedas are telling us to do. Because the Veda directly tells you Satyam Vada Dharman Chara. It orders, and we don't like the tone that Veda takes with us. Therefore, I start questioning the authenticity of Veda. That is my foolishness. Okay. And then the Puranas are there, Itihasas are there. So this is a living example, this is a testimony. We are okay, we are sold, but we are not completely sold. But when it comes to poetry, when it comes to literature, oh my God, it delivers the message. And it delivers the message in such a way that we wouldn't even be aware that the message has been delivered to us. So that's what Kanta Samhita does. Just like how a beloved wife or a beloved person tells us something, the same thing that has been told by our parents, the same thing that was told by our friends. But when the beloved one makes it a point, we tend to do it. It's just tendency. That's what literature does. So there is a necessity for the shastras to be presented in the form of literature, and it has already been done. The literature that we have, the richest literature we have, if we go through it, that is more than sufficient. You read Kalidasa, It is enough for lifetime. You don't have to read any other poet if you read Kalidasa properly. It has Nyaya Shastra, it has Vedanta, it has Yoga, it has Sāṅkhya, it has everything in it. But we just need to understand that it's not only about the descriptions, the Varnana that is done, but there is a deeper sense, a deeper meaning that the Kavi wants to deliver. And again, in the popular conversation, literature has always been looked down from the Shastra's perspective. And there seems to be sort of a miscommunication that happens between Shastra and Kavya. They always view Kavya as something that is lowly. That's not true. Because it is not easy for anybody to become a poet. So mere adding of words, if we call that as poetry, then all of us are poets. But that is not what a poet does. Kavi Krantadarshi said he should be a Krantadarshi. Kranta refers to the point that he should see beyond something. Beyond what? Beyond what everybody can see. So when they see beyond everything, that's when they become a Kavi. Even further, there is a beautiful line that explains that Na anrishih kurute kavyam. What else do you need? If he is not a rishi, then he cannot do a kavya, then he cannot write a kavya. The very meaning of the word kavi is kavim puranam anushasitaram, as the Gita also puts it, the Upanishads also put it. Kavi means Brahma. So and Brahma is also a kavi. And Pitamaha Brahma is also called as Kavi. So these words are not merely placed just for the sake of it. They mean something. And that Rishitvam should come in a Kavi. Only a Kavi who is truly a Rishi. Now we have come to this scenario where we have to emphasize on the fact that only the works of a Kavi, in brackets, who is a Rishi. It shouldn't be the case. Because there could be writers, not kavis. There are many such facts that have been revealed in the Saṃskṛta literature itself. The great poets themselves have said this, that it's very difficult to find true kavis. My teacher used to translate that and give us in a more understandable way. It's in Kannada. I'm sure those who understand Kannada, they will get it just like this. There is something called as Nai Jati and another called as Jati Nai. Okay, so so if those who understand the difference between Nai Jati and Jati Nai, that is the difference that exists between, I'm sorry to say this, writers and kavis. A kavi is always on a different level. So if the things are given to kavi, if the shastras are given to kavi, then they will make it appreciable. Look what Bhagavad Pada Shankaracharya did in Saundarya-Lahari. It is purely a tantric text. There are so many rahasyas of tantra. Devi rahasyam is there. Everything I agree. But the packaging, the presentation, in what a beautiful way it has been presented. And similarly, so many things. The Shiva Parvati Parinaya, described in Kumara Sambhavam by Kalidasa. What a wonderful way of putting it. No other poet ever again dared to write such a kavya, because it is a written rule in Shastra that the kind of amorous activities that leads to the birth of a person, that should not be explained, especially if that amorous activities have to be described about your parents or about your gurus or about the Bhagavan. Kalidasa did know, and he did it with such
aplomb.
And where has he fallen down? You cannot find a single mistake in the entire Kumarasambhavam. That's why I personally feel his magnum opus is not Abhijnana Shakuntalam. His magnum opus is Kumarasambhavam, because the way he dealt with the subject. It's a very delicate subject, and he dealt that delicate subject in such a way that it is still appreciated even today. So Shastras need to be preserved in their original form. I am all for it. It is like having a proper structure for the original thing. And the same thing, I'm not saying that kavyas are not original, but the same thing has to be presented in a more useful way, in a more appreciable way to the public, so that they can be drawn towards the study of Shastra. So that's what kavyas do. And meanwhile, along the way that they deliver this kind of thing to the world, they also teach us what needs to be done, what shouldn't be done. All these things are also told by kavya. So it is a wonderful asset to have. Kavyas are a great asset to have.
We have a similar analogy in Sangeeta, and we don't call them composers, we call them Vagyakaras. So this Rishi quality is very essential.
True.
So fast forwarding to the current age, are there, poets of this caliber? Like in Carnatic music, for instance, we have modern day composers, we have Balamurali Krishna Garu and we have Lal Gudi sir. Not maybe 50 years later their composition may actually become very popular. So what is the case with Saṃskṛta?
It is there. I mean, the Ganga in our country never runs dry. Okay, the stream may get a little thin, but it never runs dry. And when Ganga finds the space, she shall elaborate herself. So similarly, the Jnana Ganga has also been like that. It may have gotten a little bit thinner. We don't have enormous number of kavis that once upon a time we produced. Or maybe not to that caliber, but it's not like we are completely out of stock of such kavis. We have great kavis, and they need not always be the published poets. They can be unpublished as well. They can remain in isolation as well. I fondly remember one of my professors in BHU. He used to remind us that the kind of professorship you see in Kashi, in that place, the scholarship that you see, whether it is a college, whether it is BHU or Sampurnanand Sanskrit University or any other place where students get formally admitted and they get knowledge from them, they learn from them. They are not the only ones who are the great scholars. And if you want to find the true scholars of Benares, then you may have to wander around the gullies, wander around the lanes, and you will find them somewhere hidden deep down in a lane, in a house where nobody recognizes them, but since morning till evening they will be teaching. If it is true for one city of our country, it is true for every other city of our country. There are still such great people who have not only learned and who are not only well accomplished. When I say well accomplished, it need not always show on the CV. That's a wrong idea. They can bring, when they possess the ability to bring the truth in an unadulterated fashion, that's when they are considered as well accomplished. So there are people who are well accomplished, and these well accomplished people are not only holding on to them to their knowledge to themselves, but they are passing it on as well. So that parampara is silently flowing. I don't want to take names because that would be unfair. Even the great Anandavardhana did not take names apart from the three. He said Valmiki, Vyasa, Kalidasa, Prabhritayaha, Dvitrah Panchashava Mahakavayaha. So similarly, we have the great names. Dvitrah Panchashava. There could be few more whom we are not aware of them, but they are there. Otherwise, this desha, this country, will never go out of stock when it comes to yogis, when it comes to avadhutas, when it comes to sadhakas, when it comes to rishis, when it comes to kavis. We will always be blessed with that. That's the beauty of our country.
That's such a beautiful, positive note. So we were very saddened by the passing away of Sharad Joyce, who happens to be from Mysore. And in one of the interviews, one of his friends said, if he had not been... He said that if he had not been a yoga teacher, he would have been a wildlife photographer. So I see you lot of references to cricket, and you even have a DP in a stadium. So If you had not gone this way of, Saṃskṛtam and Jyotiṣya, what would you have done with your life?
That's it's a very personal question, but and I don't know if it will be relevant for the audience, but
it's like I was in music, they used to say, we don't want to know about music, we want to know what Balamurali Krishna eats.
I don't know if I have
what are
if I have already
personal
attained that kind of status, but
but who is the Vishwanath Guhaji that
if I
we
was
don't
not
know
into
about?
I think I would have been into football mostly, because I still follow. I wouldn't say as religiously as I used to follow. Of course, the fluctuations, the emotions that have come down. The fluctuations have calmed down. I still feel very strongly about the clubs that I support. And when they don't perform, it reflects on my behavior as well, which I'm still trying to cope up with. But yeah, I think I would have been into sports.
That's very interesting, because in some of these podcasts on non-dualism, they give the example of European football venues as places of great transcendence. They say people go to these places, or we go to Kumbh, because we want to forget our individuality. And sport plays a very big role in forgetting, who we are. We just get totally merged with, the...
See, you need to observe if you want to know what loyalty means. You just see how a football player or a football fan would react when you start praising his rival team in front of them. You get to know the kind of loyalty they have. They have never been to that ground. They have never been a player themselves. They have never seen the actual field. Sometimes they can't even pronounce the name of the players. It's thousands of miles away from them, but we still feel that connect. And if you ask them, if you probe, then what makes you more attached, or what makes you like this football club, they would say that it is the idea of that club, it is the idea of that football club that actually resonates with our personality. So because they have a winning mentality, because they have this attitude of never give up. So these are some of the things that actually resonate with the public as well. So in that terms, it's very true that it brings an entire community together. It was meant as that. It started like that in Europe. But I might be shooting this over as well. But we also have that kind of thing.
A lot
it has seen the flip side of it as well. But anything can be used for going inwards. And all we need to do is we need to find where exactly can I get the inspiration, where can I get that appetite for Atmajnanam. So if I find it in football, I do, because the kind of defense, the kind of defensive midfield and all these things, they inspire me, and they get translated into this format as well. It might not work for others, but it does work for me. But the point is that if it can work, if these things can work, then anything and everything in this world will work. Because we must not forget what Krishna said, Yo mam pashyati sarvatra. Sarvancha mai pashyati. So the idea is to see the one in everything and everything in one. So that is the whole idea, that we have to go ahead. And there should be no distinction saying that it's not what we see, it's how we are viewing it. So as long as we have this idea firmly fixated, then I don't think we will get lost any time.
Thank you. Thank you so much for such a lovely conversation.
Thank you.
I think we've covered some points of your scholarship, not in any comprehensive way, but it's a jhalak for people to start their own journey and to know more about you. I hope we have more conversations.
Just one last parting thing I wanted to say, like if people have to remember something, and okay, if this guy's face appears anywhere, so I know that this is the only thing that this guy speaks, and I'm okay with that. And I'm okay with that as long as people will start recognizing, or people will only, even if it is like with audasinyam, if they think that this phase is equal to Atmajnanam or something like that, the purpose of life, these are the only things that he speaks, I'm fine with that, because I'm not here for personal validation. I'm here for the Bharatiya Jnana Parampara, because whatever I am today, it is because of that Jnana Parampara. People keep saying that we have to promote Saṃskṛta, we have to promote Saṃskṛta. We don't have to do anything. We are because of Saṃskṛta. If I am sitting here today, it is because of Saṃskṛta. I am doing nothing to Saṃskṛta. In fact, Saṃskṛta is doing so many things to me. If I have survived today, if I am earning a decent living today, it is all because of Saṃskṛta. What have I done to Saṃskṛta? Saṃskṛta has done to us. Similarly, Saṃskriti has contributed to us. We have nothing to contribute to Saṃskriti. So yeah, with that parting thought.
But I will add to that, because some of the gurus in my lineage, they say, just by being touched by that knowledge, your transformation radiates something which affects all of us.
Yes. That is true.
You don't have to contribute anything. Just by being touched, allowing it to touch you, and by being transformed, you are transforming us. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.